Welcome to Good Game Pocket Edition, our shortcut show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Barjo, and yet again, Hex, we find ourselves down the rabbit hole as we delve into another MMO with Dungeons and Dragons Neverwinter.
More on that later in the show, but first we have a brand new console, the Android-based OUYA, and we've had it in the office for a few weeks now. What did you think of it, Barjo?
It's petite, but it still packs a HDMI port, Ethernet, USBs, and obviously there's no disk drive. This thing is 100% digital, and I actually think it's quite a stylish little box, Hex.
Yeah, I do too. It's just a shame that the same level of quality hasn't carried over to the controller. The layout is fine. It's nice they've included a touchpad. It's just that the main buttons feel really flimsy, especially the triggers. Plus, our O button kept getting stuck onto the faceplate. The best part, I thought, is that you can hook up a PS3 or a 360 controller to this and just use those if you want to.
But let's talk about the games, because that's what really matters. One game we played a lot of was TowerFall, one of the exclusive launch titles, and it's a great couch game for 4 players. The gameplay is so minimal and yet so intense.
Yeah, it really grabs you in a sort of Smash Brothers meets Joust way as you try to take each other down with well-timed arrows. You only have limited ammo too, so it creates all of this manic tension as you line up your last shot.
The only real problem is that there's no single-player game, just some training maps you blast through in minutes. So this is multiplayer only, and like all the other OUYA games, you can't take it online. So I gave this 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I gave TowerFall an 8. This is a pretty good start for the OUYA. I mean, it promises to be a good source for indie games and mostly free to play.
Yeah, I guess time will tell, but I'm interested to see where this console will go and where it will fit into our homes. But next up, Animal Crossing New Leaf. The return of the Animal Crossing series, which is now 12 years old, brings with it not just some fancy 3D effects, but the chance to be mayor of your town. This lets you mould the village you'll be spending all your time in, along with the usual shopping, fishing, and socialising that makes up the Animal Crossing experience.
Earning bells, the in-game currency to purchase stuff and further customise your game, is so much of that too. And watching your town expand is really satisfying. But I think the multiplayer element is really where this game shines, being able to visit your friends' worlds.
Yes, and steal their fruit.
Ah, you thief. But there's lots of little magical interactions that you can have. There really isn't a lot to it, but like those social Facebook games, once you get hooked, you'll find yourself spending all your time playing, tinkering away at your virtual little existence.
This was undeniably charming, so I gave it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, it's a lovely ecosystem. I gave it 8.5. Now, Sony's PlayStation eye peripheral Wonderbook has a new installment. This is Diggs Nightcrawler. Diggs is a private detective inchworm, hence the crawling, investigating who bumped Humpty Dumpty off the wall, that is. You mostly interact with the storybook using gestures, so the move controller is kept to a minimum. Unfortunately, the bulk of what you'll be doing is simplistic tilting actions of the book to angle light or move Diggs about. This quickly becomes tedious because it's more annoying than challenging.
Yeah, not only is it glitchy in practice, but they just use the same idea over and over in each chapter, which is quite maddening. The story is actually told quite well, but this is more of an interactive experience than a game, and I'm not sure if many could put up with the gameplay in here for very long, so I gave it 4 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, I mean, whether you call it an interactive story or a game, the action is just annoying to do, so I gave it 3.
We should go answer some questions at the Ask Good Game desk.
Good idea, Barjo. Okay, question time, and I think this one here is one that's been playing on a few people's minds recently. It's from, what? In West Side in Victoria. Why has Saints Row 4 been banned in Australia if we now have an R18 rating in our system?
Yes, I think it was a bit of surprise for many that games could still be banned after the introduction of an R18 plus classification. But let's be very clear, it will always be possible for games to be banned, and that is actually a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, we always knew that having an R18 plus rating wouldn't stop some games from being refused classification. Basically, according to the revised guidelines, the only major difference is that the new rating allows for higher impact violence and themes in games. So this is why a game like Mortal Kombat 9, for example, could be classified R18 and be able to be sold in Australia.
Yes, and Saints Row 4 contains content that falls outside of the content that can be classified R18, specifically implied sexual violence that is visually depicted, interactive, not justified by context, or related to incentives or rewards is not permitted. And drug use related to incentives and rewards is not permitted.
This is why some games change the names of drugs so that they're not from the real world. Fallout 3, for example, renamed morphine.
So there is a drug use issue in Saints Row 4, but the bigger issue is actually the anal probes.
I gotta go.
This is serious.
I don't want to see Saints Row 4 banned, but I'd be happy to just see the anal probe stuff just taken out and have the game reclassified without it in there. I've even seen buzz online to petition for an X rating for video games in the wake of all of this. Are people that desperate to have anal probes in their game? The good news is that developers do have the opportunity to edit the game and have it reclassified, and they've indicated that they are going to.
One thing the series does so well is comedy, and they do like to push the boundaries, and that is a good thing, but they have to be careful that it's not gratuitous. It's got to have a point to it, otherwise it's just not funny.
Fun isn't part of the equation.
But speaking of personal opinions, it's time for You Review. While we're on the topic of over-the-top games, how about we take a look at what everyone thought of Deadpool?
Hey, what's that? You guys tracking my every move now? But I haven't even accomplished anything in this game yet.
And it seems there's quite a few Deadpool fans out there, since there aren't really any negative reviews so far. The most negative one here is from Guest, who writes no comment and gave it 6.5 stars.
Although Esbro here seems to be reviewing the wrong game, Alice Madness Returns is the best game since it came out. 9.5 stars.
Wrong franchise, buddy.
Otherwise, it seems like you all enjoyed it, like Jedi Master Yoda here, who wrote, "Love the comedy, just needs better combat, 8 stars."
Yes, a fair point. The humor is definitely the game's strong point. Marvel Thunderbolt agrees, saying, "The best thing about this game is how funny it is, 8 stars."
Likewise, Zombies Rule wrote, "Hilarious and random, 10 stars."
And it seems like Esbro came back for a second crack at reviewing the right game, this time writing, "Deadpool should be a movie, it's so good, 10 out of 10.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
So all in all, a very positive response. And for us, the score was really based about the price of the console version we reviewed. It was too expensive, but the PC version, I think I'd give that 8.5 out of 10.
Awesome!
Fair enough. Back to the studio?
Yeah, let's go.
Good game.
Neverwinter is based on the tabletop RPG Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition, and 4th edition actually borrowed some ideas from video games. This isn't a sequel to the much-loved BioWare game Neverwinter Nights, but it does take inspiration from it.
There's a few things that Neverwinter does better than any MMO I've played before, but there's also a few things that might be an issue for some. Let's start with the world itself. If you somehow manage to find the tiny checkbox that lets you put up all the sliders, it becomes quite a good-looking game. It's no Guild Wars 2, but hex, I don't know if a game can ever be as pretty as Guild Wars 2.
Yes, and unlike Guild Wars 2, it doesn't follow the same kind of open-world format. You just don't get a clear sense of the world from these interconnecting maps, I found. But it's the dungeoning and rich combat which will draw you in, and there is certainly plenty of that.
I love the combat. I think it's great. The animations are so reactive and everything hits where it should. I had no issues with the targeting hex. I think that's a first for an MMO.
Yeah, the aiming mechanic is just incredible, and this may sound like a small thing to get excited about, but I think the days of tabbing through enemies should be far behind us, Barjo, and this is a leap in the right direction. There are only 5 classes at the moment, and they're all very set in their roles and weapons.
I thought they did a pretty good job with the character customization, though. There's plenty of races to choose from and lots of sliders. You can have big hands if you want, and a little short guy, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Normally, I just have one main because I feel like playing any other characters is a betrayal to that main.
I get that.
Yeah, but here I actually have more than one. I was happy to. Although that's also a bad thing because I've already spent 40 hours in this game and I just don't have that much time for this many characters in my life. Although I spent a good part of that time in the game's content creator called The Foundry.
Anyone can make a dungeon, room by room, edit and write all the dialogue and objectives, and anyone can go and play that for free. I mean, it's pretty incredible just how polished and how well everything works, Barjo. And the best part is, some of the top-rated dungeons out there at the moment are better than a lot of the developer content.
And it's those ones where the real love for Dungeons & Dragons shines through. It's really hard to make a compelling level, and it's quite inspiring when you play one that is done right. I've gone back to my dungeon and tried to think about ways to surprise adventurers and play with audio cues and do things like using light and movement to lead you around. I didn't execute any of that very well, but I got a lot of joy actually watching you play my dungeon, and a lot of frustration when you weren't going the right way, which is my fault. See the falling rubble?
Where's the falling rubble?
It says no, don't go that way.
I don't feel like that was clear. I mean, so to me, it draws my eye towards the, toward that, to me looks more interesting, like that's where I want to go.
I understand.
Like, I'll go this way, this is the way you can go.
It's a fair point.
There are a few luxury items and leg ups in Neverwinter, and pretty soon you realise that microtransactions have been very cleverly woven into many parts of this game. The question is, does that ruin the experience, or is it fair?
There are some things about the free-to-play model that some people may not like, such as the cost for respecs, which is a bit too high, and also apparently some of the endgame enchants are a little bit pay to win.
Yeah, plus I really take issue with the fact that you get lockboxes as a reward that you then have to pay to open. I mean, that's a bit unfair.
The good news is, I really enjoyed the PvP. I spent a lot of time in it. There's only 3 maps, which is a shame, so I hope they expand that, but it all worked and there was very little lag.
Even though I had a few issues with this model, I think it's great to see a game that genuinely encourages a creative community, so I gave it 8 out of 10.
Yeah, for me, it's about value, and I'm getting a huge amount of value out of this game, and I want to go back and build better dungeons and share them, so that's a new experience for me, really. So I gave this 9 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
Well, that's all we have for this week, but don't forget you can catch full episodes of Good Game 8:30 p.m. Tuesday nights on ABC2, and this week we're going to have a look at Gunpoint.
Plus War Game Airland Battle. Till next time, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Barjo out.